The Trek Geeks Podcast Network is proud to have Fansets as its presenting sponsor. Fansets is the home for amazing pin collectibles with over 400 officially licensed Star Trek pins and new releases every month.
Stay tuned for a special discount code worth 10% off your next order at fansets.com. Fansets, our pins have character.
The price of performing on stage is that the Borg Queen takes you over. The price of saving the future is getting hit by a car. The price of our reviews is listening to my voice. I'm Mike Bovia, and this is Discovering Trek Picard. Thanks for joining us on Discovering Trek, the Star Trek Universe Companion, presented by Fansets. This week has some ups in the episode, and after speaking with our roundtable beforehand, I know there's also some downs that we're going to discuss. So with that, let's introduce our esteemed judges on this roundtable. So I think we can all agree that whenever we have the chance to record with her, it brightens our day. So we're welcoming Fran from the Sci-Fi Sisters today. Fran, it's a pleasure to have you on once again.
And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. What's happening, folks?
And I got to share a lot of FaceTime in Chicago with our next host, from waiting in line for Will Wheaton to eating lunch in the crowded cafeteria-style food court. Welcome, Mike from Deep Space Pride.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Always fun to have this group together. And I hope we're all recovered. Those of us who went to Chicago are all recovered and back in the groove.
Still trying to catch up in the swing of things for work, but we're getting there. And after the introductions that I've given our next guest over the course of this season, if we were both standing in front of a car speeding toward us, he'd be more likely to push me in front of it instead of take the hit himself. Welcome, Jamie from the Divine Treasury.
Really? That's hurtful. I would go out with you, Mike.
Oh, okay. I've seen the faces you've made on my introductions. So
no, I would push you out of the way.
At least he didn't call you Adam Sung, Jamie. So there's that. It could have been worse.
This is true. That's true. All right, Mr. Rogers, why don't you let everyone know where we can be found on social media?
Well, if you'd like to follow the show on social media, you can find us at Discovering Trek, or you can join the conversation on Camp Kittimer. Just answer a few simple questions, and our admins, Haley, Jackie, and Fark, will let you in.
This is a reminder that this episode of Discovering Trek provides spoilers for the Picard episode 2 of 1. If you have not watched yet, head over to Paramount Plus and watch the episode, and then head back. Failure to do so leaves you open to spoilers. Episode 206 of Star Trek Picard, 2 of 1, aired April 7th, 2022. It was written by Cindy Appel and Jane Maggs and directed by Jonathan Frakes. With the help of Talon, Picard and the crew infiltrate a gala on the eve of a joint space mission to protect one of the astronauts they believe to be integral to the restoration of the timeline, Renee Picard. And Corey makes a startling discovery about her father's work. So a lot happening in this episode. So let's just get the negative out of the way. Jamie, thumbs up, thumbs down on this episode. And what's your thought process?
Well, can I do a thumbs up and a thumbs down, or no?
You can do and I'll give mine away.
One thumb down.
I'll give mine away right now. And I'm going to steal this from Casey Shafsky. I'm doing a sideways thumb because it's not up and it's not down. It's kind of in the middle. That's my take on it. So,
all right. Well, I'll try. I'll try to make a decision. I'm going to do thumbs down on this one.
okay.
It from an entertainment standpoint, I enjoyed the episode, but once I get into my Star Trek analytical mind of examining the plot and the characters and the character growth, character development, and just the sheer continuity of the episode doesn't do it for me. I have major issues with many of the plots, as I know we're going to get into. I struggle with it. So I'm gonna go with the thumbs down for the first time on discovering Trek Picard this season.
Yeah, not just the first time for Jamie, but this is actually the first thumbs down on an episode. It took us 6 episodes to get a thumbs down on one. So I know Mike had some strong, I wouldn't say strong feelings, but strong enough. So Mike, how about you? Thumbs up, thumbs down on this episode?
I was going to do the same thing you did, Mike. I'm going to give it a thumb sideways. I just felt like this was a middling episode. Mm-hmm. I dare say somewhat mediocre, but there are, like we talked about in the pre-roll, there are some parts of this that I really do like, and but there are, I think I'm going to fall with Jamie on a couple of these plot points that really stood out to me, even on the first watch when I try to watch it just for, like we were talking about, just for entertainment. So I'm going to give it a thumb sideways.
Very nice. And Fran, how about yourself? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm going to give it a thumbs up. There was one part of it I didn't like, and it'll come up. But basically, the episode for me was pretty. I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I thought it kind of dragged a little. It didn't move the plot too much further, but most of it I liked. There was one part that I didn't like. So, and it really plucked my nerves every time I saw it. So, thumbs up, basic thumbs up.
Okay. I think it's interesting that you say it dragged on, because I do kind of feel the same way. And what makes it really interesting is so far, this is the shortest episode of the season.
I was just going to say that. It's like 38 minutes long.
Yeah. And it felt like it was a lot longer, and not in a good way. Not in a good way. You kept waiting. You felt like you were attached to the back of Soong's car being pulled along.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Too soon? Too soon?
Maybe.
Too Soong.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, nice one. Nice one, Jamie. I would say also, I'm not, the reason why I think this is middling is I really don't like the trope of this countdown to something happening. Like getting the tease of of Picard being unconscious at the beginning, and then jumping forward in time, and then jumping back and jumping forward, and the clock kind of ticking down just does not do it for me. And I also feel like we were sold a heist, an Ocean 11 type episode, and we got this, and this is not Ocean's 11 at all.
Well, you talk about that, Mike, and obviously it's a 38-minute long episode, and we waste good storytelling time going back and forth. Once again, we're all in the audience waiting for this exciting chain of events to play out. Like I'm thinking coming into this episode, I'm going to be watching Mission Impossible 1 over again, the dinner sequence, and something's going to happen to Picard, but it was so much of a letdown once you actually got to what it was. To me, it was very predictable. Like, okay, he's going to do something to protect Renee, but it just was. It was a kind of a soft landing. I should say.
That's a good way of describing it. So my thumb sideways. Reasons behind it, kind of like Mike. I mean, it's actually hard for me to say thumb sideways on it because. And we'll get into it in the key points. Like the part that is my favorite part of the show I enjoyed so much that it almost brought that thumb up for me. But then, there are some parts of it that are just very problematic that prevent me from just like jumping 100% on board. But that being said, like Jamie said, I do still enjoy the episode. I've watched it 3 or 4 times now, and I can't say that this is going to be like something that goes in the pantheon like Code of Honor or Aquiel. This is a decent episode. It just has some problems within it.
Please specify how you would like to proceed, sir.
So key points, since we're all kind of dancing around the subject here, and I'm going to let Jamie go first again, just because I know he has, he's already talked to me about this. He actually has bullet points, and I don't want him to get stepped on with this. So we're gonna let him speak his mind here first.
I don't know if you want. It's going to be probably be about 38 minutes, the length of the episode, to go through the bullet points. So I'll hit on a couple of them, and then we can, if we want to circle or dance back, we can kind of come back. But
as long as you're faster than the episode, that's fine. You can, take the 38 minutes as long as I don't feel the 38 minutes.
All right. So first and foremost, I did not like Talon in this episode. So
really,
yeah. So here's a big issue I have with her. She's been watching this girl for 24 years, right?
Okay.
Analyzing every part of her life, protecting her, all this other stuff. And she's going to sit there and say to Picard, oh, maybe Q's right. Maybe she's not ready to go on the shuttle. What is your existence? Your existence is to get this girl on the freaking shuttle. What are we doing here?
I didn't like that either. That's a good point.
I mean, it's crazy. And then, which once again, I think they're trying to kind of lead us down some road, but she talks Romulan in the dinner sequence.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'm just like, I'm confused. It kind of opened up more. Mike, you're looking at me really.
I didn't pick up on the Romulan piece. I totally missed that twice. Wow.
She speaks Romulan.
Now, Jamie, I can't remember. Did they make a comment about it being Romulan, or is it a subtitle piece that says
it was a subtitle
Romulan?
Piece?
Subtitle.
You heard her speaking it. I mean, you heard her speaking Romulan. So that was kind of like, okay, what the heck is going on here? All right. So then Jurati. I mean, it's and once again, I don't blame Alison Pill. I think she did a phenomenal job. But the elephant in the room is, how the heck does she get out of security? Nobody. I mean, obviously, I know she knocked people out, but she in this red dress that, I mean, you could see. It's like watching the girl in the red dress in what's that awful movie? Schindler's List.
The Woman in Red?
No. Schindler's List. The girl in the red. It's like,
oh yeah, where she stands out amongst
everything.
Grayscale.
I mean, this girl that security just apprehended, right? Like 20 minutes before, she just comes back into the party, and nobody says, "Hey, why is she back here?" Nope, nobody notices that. Then they knock out the power, and she comes out and starts singing with a spotlight with no power. And the band just,
picks up with her.
Yeah. Magic. Now, I mean, I'm a drummer, so, I can handle stuff on the fly, but you're telling me a full jazz band just can go right into Shadows of the Night. I mean, yeah, I guess it's plausible. I don't know. I had major issues with that. Then,
I did too, Jamie. And before you move on from that point, I as I was watching it today again, I was thinking, one, she was able to just kill the lights, kill the power without even really doing anything. It didn't seem like she just, like, I don't know, clicked in her mind that
Q powers.
Yeah, exactly. And then so I was paying attention, other than the whole foible with the security guards and Picard, but we can come back to that later. But she starts singing before the spotlight comes on. Now, so I'm like, okay, she's singing, that gets everyone's attention. and then the spotlight comes on, and now I'm trying to like justify all of this, right? The singing is the first thing that she does, so that gets everyone's attention. The spotlight comes on. I imagine if she could turn off the lights, could she turn on a spotlight? Maybe. I don't know, but it's I'm trying to, I guess, give.
Right. We're trying to work outside that realm of possibility.
Yes.
No microphone either. So, but I mean, some of the band are playing electrical instruments. I mean, what happens to the
so
guitar
that I didn't pick
players?
up on. Yeah,
I mean,
that I didn't pick
I don't
up
know.
on. But I thought, and then the band starts joining her, and since it is a jazz band, and they heard her do, I don't know, maybe a whole verse of this song, maybe they were able to pick up on the music. Again, I'm stretching here, trying to justify this whole scene because it bugs the hell out of me too, Jamie. It really does. So, but I was just trying to think through this, like, how is this possible? And could the band pick up after she sung that first verse? There's more than likely a chance that they could pick that up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll give you that. Like I said, I mean, I've been in
But
situations.
I totally understand.
I've been in situations where I've had to, on the fly go in a certain direction and, musically, but I don't know.
But that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
that's a lot of mental work on my part. No offense to the, for any of us, but like that's a lot of work to kind of like have to justify all of these things when you're watching it and you're like, this is just weird. This is out of place. This doesn't seem possible in the realm of even 2 years. We're living in 2022. I don't really think that this is entirely possible in 2022. So I, to do all that work, I think, Jamie, I totally agree with you. This is too much work on our part to justify all of this. Yeah. Please continue with your bullet points.
I saw it completely different. I thought it was fabulous. I just thought it was fabulous because I love that damn dress she had on. She was serving up the girls, she was just all out there. And she started singing, and this woman can sing. I'm like, damn, she can sing, and it was actually her singing. I found out later on. Mm-hmm. I just thought she just looked so good in that red dress with the red lipstick. And I'm not really a fashion person. I'm not, makeup and all, but I didn't get that. I got that she was standing up there on the balcony. She was singing and she looked fabulous, and she did what she needed to do to distract these people because she was looking fabulous throughout the whole thing, and she was sounding fabulous throughout the whole thing. So that's what I got out of it. My track, I didn't go into the analytics of it. It just went into the superficial part that she looked and sounded wonderful.
Understandable.
And I agree with you on. And once again, the first time I watched this episode, I was in that moment, and I was like, "Wow, she's got a phenomenal voice." Allison Pill. I mean, she's a
stunner.
Yeah, she is. Yeah,
she looks great. And I like you said. And once again, I'm coming at it from a musical standpoint too. I thought it sounded great. Everything looked great and all that other stuff. But once I started getting into the analytics of it and how this was how no security guard was running up on stage, taking her off the stage. This is the girl we just arrested,
But you all did notice that the Queen said that they did some short-term memory on those folks in there too.
Yeah, but all the security guards in the actual that were on the floor that captured him.
Right.
None of all those people don't remember this chick in the red dress. I mean,
no, I'm talking about the ones that took her back to the room.
You got a good point, Jamie. She does kind of stand out among everybody else.
She does.
But this. Oh, go ahead.
And can I say, Fran, with your comment, it brought my introduction right to life because all three of us had these big old smiles on our face when you started talking about Allison Pill in that moment. The one thing I'm going to add to your thought too, Jamie, is, I think about this now and you've made the comment actually a couple times now already that, this is a jazz band that's playing there, and they're quick enough to pick up on a Pat Benatar song like that quickly, Well,
but you could actually say jazz are more improvisers, right?
That's true.
Jazz
That's a good
is
point.
more improvisational.
Yep.
So technically, I could spin that around and say a jazz musician would be more apt to pick up something on the fly.
So now you're on Mike's side of the fence.
Yeah. But going back to this whole security thing, this whole security at this party, that was kind of another major issue for me. Like how they're like so good at one point and then so like lax at another point. And, obviously the whole thing with Jurati, all that stuff. But then, Dr. Soong goes off and talks to this woman. And it seems like he's not even getting the words out of his mouth that Picard's a dangerous person. And security guards are starting to walk towards him. Like, well, I get it, but that woman wasn't wearing a headset. She wasn't wearing a headset. I mean, but just all of a sudden, boom, they're going to start moving towards him. But then Picard gets outside with Renee. Where's the security there? They're just walking around. They could just come back in the party. I think you're going to come back in the party. Like I said, it's like at certain moments they were this great security crew. And then at other moments they're like just non-existent. How would a guy get run over by a car and nobody see it? And it's like, we're just going to rush him off to some little...
It's just his crew that's there helping out.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I mean, nobody saw that. Nobody would call the police. Nobody would call an ambulance. Renee Picard standing over his body and she'd be like, yeah, I'll let you guys. Yeah, you just... I'd be calling 911 right then and there. Right?
That did. Yeah, because that's the second time I'm sorry.
No. I just things like this just took me out of the moment and just made it not believable to me. And it was like, I hate to make another Star Wars comparison, but I'm going to. I'm going to. Phantom Menace and Mike Thurlow, you know what I'm talking about here. So Qui-Gon Jinn and young Anakin, they're on Tatooine. They're in the marketplace. And then all of a sudden, in the next scene, we see them running towards the ship. And as we know, years later, there was a deleted scene that was deleted. But for years, I'm watching that scene going, why are they running? This doesn't make any sense to me. And to me, that's what I felt like this episode was like. It had holes. Like the editing just was not there. Like there's pieces missing. There's no continuity. And there's just gaps. And there's gaps that really didn't need to be there because it was only a 38-minute long episode. So I have more points, but I'm going to stop right there. I'll let you guys.
That's probably why it was 38 minutes because
I agree.
They edited it. So it was so edited. Mm-hmm. So, because it's okay. When they said 34 minutes, I said, oh, they're doing this in real time, huh? Mm-hmm. And then they went back and forth and, but the thing with, that's the part, Brent Spiner, Soong guy, that took me out. He took me out because he really got on my nerves. He really did. So he took me out of the scene, even though he was acting. He took me out of it.
So did you have an issue with Brent Spiner's portrayal, or did he do such a good job in his portrayal of the character that it turned you like? I'm trying to.
Well, he's playing the proverbial. No, it's supposed to be the proverbial mad scientist, but he's actually a mad scientist.
Yeah.
As in angry mad scientist, because the way he, and you saw the way Picard like just backed up when that body language and stuff, and I'm like, oh God, do we? That's the part. That's my thumbs down. Is the mad scientist.
Now, let me tell you something that they made 100% accurate to real life, because I was just thinking about it here, is how Soong is an outcast in his community. We saw that last episode. You know, he's had everything stripped away from him within the scientific community. He goes and makes an enormous donation to this program, and suddenly he's able to wield the security to have people taken out of the building. If that is not true to life, I don't know what is. The person with the money makes the decisions, and that's what happened here.
But Mike, even that doesn't make sense, though, because in the previous episode, he was fighting to get grant money to do his research. And then now all of a sudden he miraculously has all this money that he can just donate. I mean, maybe he got the money from Q.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's like there's holes, there's gaps.
You also, you know, the other thing is too, I mean, all of these companies that have tons and tons of money, they apply for grants all the time to, you know, for funding for certain things so that it doesn't, I mean, he's a one man company essentially. So it's not like he's got to protect his ability to pay his employees. But you know,
yeah, I got more negative stuff. I'm trying to give you guys the floor, but if you want me to keep going, I'll keep going.
Yeah, you got to be close to the end. So
you would think. All right. And I'm sorry if I tick people off when I say this, but the scene between the two Picards, Renee and Jean-Luc, to me was not believable. And I'll tell you why. Not that I think the actors did a bad job or whatever, but I think it was very unrealistic that in the span of 3 or 4 minutes that Jean-Luc Picard could convince her, I'm good. I'm ready to get back on that shuttle. With how they're building up this story of, you know, her with all her issues and her mental illnesses and anxiety and how she is at this party. And all of a sudden, this stranger who she doesn't even know can just have this 3-minute back alley conversation with her. And she's all of a sudden, she's good. I'm good. My therapist is telling me one thing. I just think that was not believable. To me, it would have made more sense to kind of like build up their relationship over a course of a couple episodes, somehow, you know, give it a little bit more substance, just for her to like a light switch be all of a sudden all set and ready to take this guy into space.
All right. Rebuttal.
Johnson and I had this very discussion, Jamie, and I do see what you're saying. I think one of the things from an earlier episode that I picked up on was that Talon has said that she's always able to kind of recover and get back on the horse. And so, you know, Renee is a very resilient woman. And I think the pressure of being in that hugely social environment, having the failures of the previous day on the simulator, all of that, you know, having Q, her therapist, you know, poking these doubts into her. I think that what we're missing here is that Renee is a extremely resilient person, and to hear what I would consider like grandfatherly advice from a very trusting looking person, a soul, you know, a soul connection that you know, you could say between the two Picards, and that he was able to it's not the words that I think, well, some of the words, definitely. I think fear is you know, is one of the things that he says to her. What else did I write down? You know, you understand the risks. And I think that, that reminded her of everything. Like, she's been a test pilot. She's not gonna, you know, I think it was just a lot of little things that piled up, but anyone who's a test pilot, I mean, they've endured some of the most stressful times in order to be a test pilot. And I think that just understanding that, you know, having someone else tell her that the fear is just a check, it's a sign of an intelligent person, versus, you know, fear telling you something. I think that, you know, he said that fear doesn't have a hidden agenda. You know, it's just a reminder that you understand the risks. And I think that's enough to get her back on course. I mean, she's already there. She's already committed to this program. I think anytime that any of us have started a new job or done something new and different, we have these doubts. And I think over time, you work through those doubts in any new position. And I think for Renee, hearing the reminder from Picard that she's resilient, that fear is just an imagining of your mind because of the risks, and kind of going from there. He also, the other thing too is he just reminds her about the light. And I think that was really important. You get into a place of where fear surrounds you and it feels dark, but that there's this light that, and for her, maybe it was, Jean-Luc talking to her, maybe he was the light and just, drawing her towards him, in a sense, towards the light, and reminding her about the light was enough to pull her out of this. So I think that, well, I understand, it's hard to talk her out of this. She's already at the gala. It's she's hours away from going into quarantine. She is having some doubts, but I think that, ultimately she was never going to really back out, although Q was trying his best to make it happen. So that's sort of my take. I don't think that Picard is some magician, but I think he does give her just a different perspective. He doesn't even nudge her, he doesn't even say, he doesn't even nudge her in a way. He just says a few wise words that kind of remind her of herself and her North Star, and the fact that there's light in the darkness, and to keep moving towards the light. So I think that's kind of where it comes from. That sort of transformation that we see.
Yeah.
That's what I saw. I agree with you, Mike. I do.
Yeah. So beyond this being my absolute favorite part of the episode.
Yeah, same.
I have a rebuttal for Jamie. And it's going to hit him right in his sweet spot.
Oh boy.
All right. So you have a hard time believing that with just a few minutes, Picard could get her turned around so that she could go off and do what she needs to do. A few minutes to get a task accomplished that he needs to get done. I have two words for you. Admiral Satie, the drumhead. Few minutes, he made her look like a raving lunatic, and she was out the door.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you on that point. But I think by that point, Admiral Satie was that was what she was. People were seeing that. This is. And once again, that was somebody that he had a relationship with. People knew that Picard and Satie, he had a respect for Satie, and there was a relationship there. This is a total stranger to her. She doesn't know who this person is. Clearly she's drunk, right? She's been drinking all night. So she's got that influence as well.
That's what made it easier to take those words. But
you can't tell me that throughout her whole training, she hasn't, like they showed that one of the other astronauts there, or the person who's leading the mission. You can't tell me that she's gone to him and voiced some of her concerns, and he's kind of, hasn't been that sort of light tower for her,
So see, here's something that Talon said about her. When she makes the comment about her, what is this? She said she pulls on her earlobes when she's starting to have a problem.
Yeah.
She also said that, and this is true, I think, for anyone who goes through depression, anxiety, whatever, you get good at putting on an act for people. And she made that comment about her. Renee has gotten good at putting on an act. So you're right. It's probably not something that the commander or others have seen to this extent. They know there's something there, obviously. Well, maybe not, though, because we talked about this last week. The therapist sessions are required for somebody getting ready to go into space to make sure that their mental outlook is where it needs to be before they're going up. So, I mean, maybe none of these people know the intimate side of her.
Well, I was going to say too, it's actually kind of defending your point too, is we don't know. I know you kind of alluded to that Q is her therapist, but that might've just been one session. I mean, in a lot of situations, a psych test could just be one counseling session with a therapist. There's no evidence to say that she's been going to Q for 6 months or 3 months or whatever. It may just
she's been texting him though. She's texting with him. Remember during this episode. So it's an ongoing. It's at least a slightly ongoing.
But it may be ongoing since that one appointment. We don't know.
It could be. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
We don't know. Maybe maybe they had the appointment and that's where Q's stepping in, going, here's my number. I want to keep in touch with you. I want to, help you, or help guide you through your issues that you're having. We don't know. But yeah,
hopefully it's not the same number from the business card.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I just think like with the amount of time that this episode was, you could have developed that,
fleshed
further.
It out a whole lot
you
more.
Could have fleshed it out. Like you could have really, given him that, like you mentioned, that Sati moment. I just think there just wasn't enough there for me to just all of a sudden be convinced that, and even I go to the fact of Picard puts his life on the line to save her. To me, that would be something, if I were to see that, if I was her, that would put me in a different state of mind too. Is somebody trying to kill me? Like, should I even get on this mission? And I mean, they kind of just brush that aside. Like, the rest of the crew, nobody's watching what she's doing after she just watched this man who convinced her to go on this mission almost get killed. Nobody's with her. They just leave her. And there's dialogue where they're basically sitting there saying, oh, she's good. She's all set. She's fine. How do you know? You guys are all in a hospital with Picard.
There's that huge gap there between when he gets run over and the next scene where they're in Teresa's, clinic. And you're right. There is that whole big gap of what happened.
It is.
And you can't tell me that that's not making her second guess once again what she's doing. I just feel like there's just huge gaps in this episode that they just did not, it's not coherent. It's not fleshed out the way it should have been.
They're on the cutting room floor. That's where they
probably
are. Those gaps are.
They'll be on the.
I mean, I hope so. Not. I hope that it's on the cutting room floor, but I also am not really super thrilled with the writing of this episode. To have these huge gaps. Again, I don't really like the trope of the countdown and all of that. And
let me say, to go along with that, Mike. I think some of the editing, because I haven't heard a number of specifics about the editing and deleted scenes and whatnot. But I was talking to Jamie beforehand. I did hear that there is a deleted scene, whether it makes a Blu-ray or not. Maybe it was just something that was in the script. I don't know, about how the spotlight came on Jurati from nowhere. Because there was a lot of comments on Twitter about it. And I want to say it was Dave Blass, the production designer, made a comment. There was supposed to be a scene about that. So I don't know if it's something that was filmed and then just got edited out. If it was something that was in the script and they just never filmed it, I don't know. But yeah, going along with your point, I kind of feel like because of how they were trying to make it a real-time episode, a 24 style thing, I think that's where these gaps and these holes are coming in, because they were trying to follow it so closely. It kind of feels like they might have lost track of integral parts that needed to go in.
Well,
yeah.
there was even though I'm just taking it off in another direction, there was a huge Easter egg that nobody has brought up, but I know some people know it.
Bring it to us.
When he said to her, he said, "I come to fetch you." Okay. Dr. Jameson wants all the astronauts on the stage. Dr. Jameson is Dr. Mae Jameson.
That's what I was just going to say.
Woman. Yeah. First Black woman astronaut.
I didn't catch that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did. I'm like, oh, they did Dr. Jameson. Yeah.
Awesome.
So when she got up and she put her arm and they left, I'm like, oh, that was so nice.
I love that.
And then the next thing you see them walking and the mask goes mad.
There's some Easter eggs in this one too. Besides that, you got the Nomad was pictured in the background. I don't know if anybody saw that.
Yep. The OV-165 from the Enterprise intro.
Yep.
Yeah. Did that seems a little too early to be in this timeline, but it okay.
Does. And I'm having a hard time remembering the conversations surrounding it. I can't remember if she said it's something that she's looked forward to seeing happen in her lifetime, or if she's saying it's something that has already happened in her lifetime.
No, she calls it the spark or spark fire or something. So she's flown it. Yeah, she's flown it. Okay. Yeah, she's because of the engines. She said that something about the engines and how they
spike. She calls it
spike. Oh, maybe it's spike. You're right. Yeah, not spark. Spike. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we see all the, going back to Assignment Earth. That whatever that device that's got to be the most powerful device in
neural optic interceptor,
whatever it is. Thing can do anything.
So have we satisfied your negative list, Jamie, or is
no, not yet? I'm trying to be positive right now.
I know you are.
I'm going on another. So I like that they keep kind of going back to City on the Edge of Forever in this season of Picard too. And when I say that is I'm kind of going the opposite. We see Picard step in front of the car to save Renee Picard. If we think about City on the Edge of Forever, that's the exact opposite of what Kirk did.
Right.
Right. Kirk stopped himself from her being saved. So I like how we kind of keep, reusing some of these things that we see in original series episodes. I love how they're kind of throwing them in, into the season of Picard. So I guess I'm trying to come up with positive things. I don't want to be all negative.
I think it's cool how they've done a good job of weaving in a lot of the points. I want to say they've really tried to hit on every prior episode of Trek that has ventured to the 20th or 21st century. They've weaved into this storyline somehow. There was a very brief mention of, is it Beginning's End? The two-parter from Voyager when they went to 1996 with Ed Begley Jr. I can't remember the name of the episode, but his character was named on a paper somewhere in the episode. We see the Jackson Roy Kirk reference, the Nomad reference, City on the Edge of Forever. Like you said, there's been a number of Easter eggs for that one with the 21st Street Missionary. Just a number of different things. We've seen the sanctuary districts from past tense. There's been tons of Voyage Home references. There's been First Contact references, even though it's something that happens like 30 years after these events. There's been some callback there as well. So I got to give them some credit there. They've weaved all of that again into the story where it's not taking over, but you're picking up on these little threads here and there.
I mean, I did love I don't know, when the way that Frakes filmed the bow at the end of the song, I thought was really well done. And she bows down and the Borg Queen pops up. But I noticed on the second list of watching that there's music from First Contact underneath that, which I thought was just brilliantly done. The Borg kind of theme music. So that was really cool to see. Can we just talk about how oblivious everyone is to what is going on with Jurati and how no one has put this together yet? Picard hears Jurati say, "If you don't shut up, I will find a way to destroy you." Like, why doesn't that set off some alarms in his head? The same with Rios when he goes over and talks to her. Plus, she's over there talking to herself. Like all of these clues, I just, like at any other party, if it wasn't so sold to us that this was such a secure party, and Jamie, I'm right on board with the security lapses here. I mean, seriously, this is like the worst security job ever. Yet I guess they don't care once you get in, once they scan your badge and you're okay. Like, free, except there's just so many issues with that. But it's really frustrating that no one has picked up on Jurati's changes, and that kind of distraction. I mean, like, why wouldn't Raffi and Seven be like, what the hell is going on here? Like, where is this coming from? Oh
my God, Mike, like, you are totally on the same wavelength as me, because this was going to be another one of my points. Was, here's this girl who's already emotionally unstable, Jurati, right? She just killed the Borg Queen. She's got blood all over her, snots. I don't know. There was like some other clear substance on her. Who knows, right? She's a wreck. And it's like, nobody deals with that. They literally are like, Picard's like, okay, Jurati, go get us into this party, upload and this is the same girl that killed.
He did that in season 1, though.
Well, I know that, but it's like, this is the same girl that killed her boyfriend. And it was like, okay, she, I get it. She was under Romulan mind control, but it's like, come on, it's like, she's not okay. To your point, she's not okay. How are we just like, and I feel like, I feel like the writers and the showrunners are just saying like, man, Allison Pill is just firing on all cylinders. We got to get her in every scene we can this season, because she's just killing it. She's killing it with this Borg Queen. And it's like, to your point, they're just leaving these obvious plot holes, wide open.
Yeah, I mean, that was my another big problem for me. But one thing I really did like was, before the whole security piece, was I don't know if it's a showdown, but a run-in between Picard and Adam Soong. Like, that gave me creepy vibes. Fran, I totally understand what you're saying. Like, it's I'm trying to be in Picard's head when he sees Adam Soong and like just kind of starts to process that, like what are you doing here? Like, having had such a relationship with all of the Soongs and interactions with them, just to have that thrown out, and then this very like serious, I don't know, like just almost like deadly conversation about, you don't know Q, like you can't possibly know this, and it's just you start to see this mad scientist kind of this is where at the end of the episode, Fran, like when Corey starts looking through all of the files and everything, and she sees all the mad scientists, I'm like, he has quickly devolved into that. Whether we knew it or not, he has, like, over the course of this 38-minute episode, from the end of last episode where we see Q giving him the stuff and asking a favor of him, he is seriously devolved. And this is someone who has like serious, like narcissistic, psychopathic tendencies that Q is just totally feeding off of. And this comes out really quickly. So, but the actual showdown, the run in between, Jean-Luc and Adam is just so palpable. It's like,
Mhm.
if we could swear on this episode, OF, oh
Mhm.
my, that would be like things just took another turn for the worse, I feel. And but that was a really powerful kind of scene that I thought was there. Also, I just want to go back to the very beginning because I think it's a touching little scene before we all think that Talon, is kind of out of touch with her mission and with Renee. She does pick up on, Picard calling her Laris again, and then saying that, the way he does this funny little thing when he says her name. And I thought that was really it's a good tie back to this whole we're everyone's trying to get back to 2401 and reset the timeline. He's trying to get back to 2401 basically to find Laris.
Mhm.
And
He's hitting
this was
on
a
her
nice,
like she's Laris.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, but also, he so quickly dismisses it, which it seems oddly out of character for him. But she picks up on the fact that he's lying. So
Really?
but I actually thought what he said, something about little importance or whatever. I thought that was kind of trite and kind of not very Picard-like. So I felt like there was some inconsistencies with Picard as a character in this episode, just between all these little things that just kind of stood out to me. I mean, those are sort of those are my few other points, I think. Fran, what do you bring some sunshine to this episode?
Well, I saw several things when he did that. Patrick Stewart, he's just fantastic actor, and his face just says everything to me. When she said to him, now I can tell when you're lying. And she turns around and his face is like, oh my gosh, yeah, she got me. I love his, I guess everybody does, his acting, because he's great at what he does. And I like that exchange between. I would have liked to have heard him call her Laris, though. They I don't know if they filmed that or not. I would have liked to sing that moment.
It was probably a deleted scene. That was edited out.
That was edited out.
For time.
Yeah, for 38 minutes. And for 38 minutes. But I just saw him as being like this sage captain, Captain Sage, and giving everybody, pep talks, like he told her, maybe, you've done a good job. Let her go. Let her do what she needs to do, which, sometimes you don't want to let go. And maybe Laris didn't want, I can't think of her name, but she didn't want to let go. And he kind of had to nudge her in that way. Let her go. You've done a great job. She's ready to go now. And then, and I just love his interaction with Renee. And I like the way that they all look alike to me. His mother, the little boy, I know he was supposed to be him. Renee, they all look alike to me. Am I saying this right? Because,
yeah, you are.
Okay.
They
all look alike.
It's a very good job in casting, yeah.
In casting, yeah. They all look alike and sound alike, I'm like, oh, okay. So I like that he could, go here, go there. But the interaction between him and Soong grated my nerves. It just really grated my nerves. And this is nothing against Brent Spiner, because I think he's a great actor also. But it was just boom. He just showed up, and he just, he's walking in this, and here's another Data, only older and softer, and
I felt like it was Lore. Like I felt like literally Lore had come. And walked in front.
And it was like, oh, and the body. I keep looking at that body language where he backed up, because he's not normally a backup person. He normally stands his ground.
Mhm.
He didn't stand his ground with the bad guy.
Yeah.
So and yeah, it was a little tropey and all that, but I liked the way he talked to people. I liked the advice because guys, I'm in my mid-60s, and people actually listen to me when I talk. The job. Like I had a cousin tell me. I told her something a few years ago, and she told me, "You told me to do dot 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 dot." She said, "That's what I've been doing." So when you get to be older and you pick up this wisdom and experience, you can give it to people. Because I've given it to people because I work. My job is that I work with people with cognitive issues, and you have to be good at it. And I've done just what he's done to people. I've done that to other recovering addicts, and they like, and I had people come back and tell me years later, you really helped me. You said such and such. And I said, and that feels good. And I remember maybe having 1 or 2 conversations with these people, but I got through to them at a time that they needed to be talked to, talked down, talked up. And it felt good when they came back to me years later and said, Fran, you remember, and you said, and you did, and, like, okay, thank you. I'm glad that, our talk worked. So I think that conversation with her was plausible. I do. I really do. Because I've experienced that. So,
Yeah.
But and one more thing, when I know I'm going off of Picard now, but I had when Raffi, because he did that to Raffi, I thought that was really cruel when she was so drunk in season 1 and he had her, get them on that rod. I'm like, don't he know she really needs help? That she's almost drunk off her feet, literally, and he's, getting her to do this, and then they clap, and I'm like, oh gosh. But so he's gonna get what he wants, basically. But there was another thing that when she was at the bar and she saw the liquor, and I had an experience like that myself. And I'm like, oh. And I like that they put that in there. Another thing I like that they did was, when somebody close to you passes away, it seems as though you see them everywhere, or you see somebody that looks like them, and I'm like, oh, they're doing that too. See, these are the things that I picked up on in this episode, because I guess because they were relatable. It was relatable to me.
Yeah,
So,
I really like that. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with what you're saying. It was nice nice in a way that you can see the love that she had for him. Still sad in a way that with everything that's going on, she still has to struggle with that feeling as well. But the other point that I liked about Raffi here too is from that same scene when she's standing at the bar with Rios and she's gotten her club soda. Very good for her. She turns around and they're observing Seven, and she makes the comment about how nice it is to see Seven happy. That this isn't something that she's used to seeing. I thought that was a nice observation that was made there by her, and the little back and forth between her and Rios about it was really nice.
Yeah, it was. And I think, because if I go back to season 1, Picard should have woke up on a bio bed when he got tossed around up on the roof and stuff. I'm like, this guy is 90 years old. How is he still alive and at home? So they did the same disconnect with that as they did with him on the roof. So, like, okay, wait a minute, something is missing here. So I got that. I got that part. I was really baffled by that too. So I agree with you, Jamie, about that. I agree with all of you with that disconnect with him getting hit by the car and Renee just disappears.
I do think the one other thing that interested me from this and I think it's going to continue to play through the rest of this season, is Rios romanticizing the 21st century, and it's different things, real cigars, real liquor, matches, things like that. I'm wondering how far it's going to go, since we already see this little connection that he has with Teresa. Or Teresa.
Teresa, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a prediction?
No. I think it's going to be interesting just to see how it plays out. I know Jamie has a prediction regarding that. And there's no way that I'm going to step on his toes with that one.
Okay.
So has that fulfilled everybody's key point quota? Oh my God! How can you still have?
I'll just do one more.
Everything in my list has been touched on, even through the lens of the negativity.
Well, and Mike, I think I'm not sure if it was Mike Thurlow, but I think you kind of touched on this. But my last negative thing, I have other ones, but I'm gonna stop at this one. I think it was way too easy for Corey to find all her dad's work and pictures and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I just she just literally walks onto his, and it's all sitting on his desktop.
Well, we know nothing about her too. So we don't know, what her involvement with any of his work, if he helps her out with stuff at all. So you're right. To all of us, it just seems like, oh, it's this kid walking into her dad's office and accessing all of his classified files.
But it's they weren't even secure. There was, and once again, I get it that they have to move the plot along, and that's a big reveal, right? We were all sitting here, last week going, what is Corey? Is she real? Is she an android? Is she a genetic experiment? So, the writers knew that, and they were going to have some sort of reveal. I just thought it was, once again, it took me out of the moment with this episode, where it's she just goes up to the computer and, all right, I'm going to search Google. And then he's got all the pictures and videos right on his desktop, and I'm just going to start clicking through them. I don't know. I'm done. I'm done. We'd like to take a moment to talk about Fansets, the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks podcast network.
Getting to see the Fansets team in person for the second time in under a year at Mission Chicago was fantastic. There was virtually never a time that there wasn't a huge group at their table, and why not? It's not just Star Trek that they offer, as they have something for many different types of fandoms, including Scooby-Doo, DC Comics, Batman 66, Harry Potter, and Rick and Morty.
Speaking of Mission Chicago, there were some awesome new releases that are now available on the Fansets website. You can pick up all three of the special Mission Chicago pins, including the beautiful large Enterprise D glitter pin. Also, if you love that Wrath of Khan Delta badge that was released earlier, you'll love to pair it with your own Admiral rank pin that's now available on the website. And there's also something that we've been waiting for a long time. I know I've seen previews of it at different moments, but the first in the Master Ships collection, the XL Enterprise A, and what an unbelievable collector's piece this is, with multiple magnets, multiple different ways that you can display this. It's so gorgeous. Even has the plaque, the dedication plaque on there as well. So this is quite a piece that is awesome, as Mike Thurlow is holding it up for me to see. So please check them out on the website. Go down to fansets.com, put a whole bunch of pins and other accessories in your cart.
Definitely put that pin in your cart. It's amazing. And as a listener to the show, you can receive 10% off your next order from Fansets by using the code TrekGeeks at checkout. And remember that you receive free shipping in the U.S. on orders of $30 or more.
Fansets. Our pins have character. And we want to thank Fansense for once again being the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
So now we transition into the message of this episode. And typically I'll let you guys go first on everything, and I will throw my little bits and pieces in here and there. But I felt really strongly about this one. I've already mentioned that my favorite part of the episode was Picard and Picard talking to each other there. And that speech that Jean-Luc gave, we mentioned a few parts from it before. Fear is fear. It doesn't speak in riddles. It means you understand the risks. The world that we live in today, forget about what's happening in the world, but it feels like there are more and more people that have problems with anxiety, that have problems with depression, like on a grander scale than we've ever seen before. And maybe some of that is because the stigma of that is no longer present, that people feel more comfortable talking about what their issues are and wanting to get the help that they need for it. But listening to Picard's speech, the way that Patrick Stewart delivered it, it feels like that it's something that we all need to hear. Even if we don't have an anxiety disorder or problems with depression, just that, it's natural to have fear, and it means that you understand that there's risks involved. And then, how do you handle yourself once you understand the issue at hand? How do you move forward? And I can't get any deeper than that, because I think I'd have to go down too deep of a rabbit hole too, but that is that's what stood out to me as being the message for all of us. Fran?
Yeah, I had said it first. Mental health. That's my takeaway from this episode. Not the only thing, but the main thing. And somebody can actually talk you down, and I did mention I've done that over the years with people, and recovering people with autism. I've had to deal with people with emotional and mental issues. So, and that's why I like the episode, because it's bold. It's bold. We weren't too bold about mental health issues. We weren't. And, as we know, this lockdown, this COVID thing just did a number on people, just really did a number on people. And so, and I think we're still going through, the fear of, well, at least I am, is this ever going to end? Are we ever going to get back to, I hate to even say it and do the air things, normal? Are we ever going to get back to that? But I think there's going to be a new normal, but the fear is still there. So, I like the episode. So
I like the word that you used for it, bold, in how it portrayed that. I think that's a good word for it. Mike?
So one of the things that I really liked about this episode that Fran called out, and I'd kind of forgotten about it or hadn't pieced it together until Fran brought it up, but the idea that Raffi is still grieving, and that grief isn't something that you just get over and go back to work and just move forward. It's ongoing. And granted, in the timeline of this episode, it's only been a couple of days at most since Elnor was killed. And I like that. And obviously Picard does this much better than previous iterations. You see the carryover of something that's happened in a previous episode actually continuing to be an impact on the character as they move forward. And I think this is a great reminder that we don't know what other people are going through, and that we should check in with one another. And I see that Rios and Raffi are kind of doing that with one another. And I really appreciated that. But I also appreciated the fact that it's a reminder that Raffi is still dealing with this, and yet she's doing her job. You know, she's focused on fixing the future. And, you know, the people that have to go back to their jobs after grieving and losing a loved one is a significant burden. And I think that we need to keep in mind that we don't know what other people are going through or how long it takes to deal with something when it comes to grieving. So I like that is a part of this episode and continues to be a part of Picard overall.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. I think we underestimate what people are going through. And unfortunately, the amount of time that we get to grieve, at least on an occupational level, is just not enough. And, you know, it makes sense. We do need to provide for ourselves, but you're right. It's tough for people when they're dealing with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought of this. I have a friend who I work with who in the last year has had 4 people who are significant in her life pass away, including her grandmother, who basically raised her. So, you know, I've gotten to see both sides of that because, you know, we both report to the same person, and I've seen how that, you know, the responsibility of doing your job, and being expected to do your job, but also realizing just how much trauma that is pretty significant. And so, you know, I've seen the real world application of this, and my coworker continues to do her job and did continue to do her job through all of this. But it was tough. And I think that, you know, some empathy and compassion around people who are grieving and coming out of COVID. I mean, there are, gosh, I don't even know what the number is at this point. You know, hundreds of thousands of people passed away over the last 2 years from COVID. And, you know, we don't know how that is impacting all of the people, and including their mental health, which, you know, to shout out back to what Fran says about, you know, the importance of talking about mental health. So I think that this is really an impactful piece. I like this theme that they're weaving through, and I like how they're touching on this very lightly, but also very, very boldly.
Yeah, and the good thing that you mentioned too, Mike, is how they're continuing the character development thread, which is something that we've been promised for our next show, Strange New Worlds, that even though it's going to be episodic in nature, so, you know, the whatever the problem of the day is will be resolved at the end of the day. Our characters aren't going to forget what's happened, like in previous iterations of Trek. You know, what they've dealt with in the past and what they're dealing with during this series is going to impact how they grow going forward. So that's a step in the right direction, I think, for all of us, because, you know, it's hard to watch Worf break his back and be paralyzed, and next week be you know, on the planet or on the holodeck, you know, beating up his exercise people. So and since we let him run ragged over the second section of the show, Jamie goes last.
I knew that was going to happen. Obviously, you know, you guys touched on a lot of the points that, you know, similar points that I was going to make. But I do want to say that I really think, and this is a positive thing of this episode, is, you know, once again, we're seeing in this season of Picard how deep the creators, the showrunners, are willing to push our characters. And we really see it kind of personified in this episode. and using that backdrop of, emotional issues and mental issues and challenges. They're really putting a lot of stress on our characters to see how they're going to react and how they're going to handle these challenges and these stresses. We think of Raffi, dealing, like you mentioned, Mike, the loss of Elnor. It still is a fresh wound in her. And then how's she going to react to that when she's put in a social situation where she's at a bar and where substance abuse is a problem for her? Is she going to turn to that? Or is she going to stay strong and kind of steer the course and try to overcome some of her demons, right? We're starting to see this family, the Picard family, how there's a history now. And I think we're going to see it even more when we get into the next few episodes with Picard's mother, that there looks like there's a history of mental illness in the Picard family that, when we were watching TNG, we never thought was apparent, but this show is starting to kind of bring that to light, that, there's more to these characters and there's more to Picard than we're leading on, but he's in a family that is dealing with emotional and mental issues. We see Adam Soong and the depths that he's willing to go, right? Because we were all kind of alluding to it in the last episode that, he kind of will almost do anything, we think. But now in this episode, we see how far he's willing to go. And yet, even after he does what he does, he comes home, he's still dealing with his own his own mental demons as well. Like, he still doesn't feel happy about what he's doing and what he's going about with. And then that even translates into Corey, as Corey is trying to figure out and search who she is. So we see that these characters they're being put under so much emotional stress, and we're just really starting to see the depths of these characters. So I like how this episode kind of dug deep and really kind of exposed our characters to us.
Starfleet Command is proud to present you the Christopher Pike Medal of Valor.
So I know it's tough to realize this, but I think we all did have positives that came out of this episode. So here's where we bring them out in the awards round. So Mike, why don't you take the lead on this one? Who did you give your awards to this week?
I just have 2 awards this week. The first award goes to Brent Spiner. I mean, I think that scene with him and Picard, and then just the devolving so rapidly of his mental stability and how he brings that out in his performance is just amazing. The other piece of this episode, when Corey is looking at all those videos, like, he had to do a lot of videos and a lot of, different looks that would show over time. So my second award is related to that. It goes to the makeup and the hair team for Picard, because they did an amazing job in believing and seeing Adam Soong through time as part of this episode. So those are my 2 big call outs that really stand out this week.
Can I say, we touched on this a little bit when we talked about Spiner's portrayal in this episode. I know you all mentioned it reminded you of Lore. I'm gonna go even further off base with this one. I was thinking Louise Fletcher as Kai Wynn. She was a fantastic performer in the role that she had to do. So much so that we hated Kai Wynn. I mean, we just the depths of our hate for her were unbounded, and that just goes to show, how good of an actress she was. And it kind of goes along with this here too.
Yeah, I totally agree. That hate for Kai Wynn is definitely palpable, and the disturbing nature of Adam Soong is also riveting on that same kind of level. And this whole character development of Adam Soong, and going back to that second episode, seeing his statue or his holographic statue, like, how can this madman be that
leader
person
of the
in the
world.
future. Yeah. So, but anyway, a huge shout out to Brent Spiner this week. He did an amazing job.
All right, Jamie, I guess I'll let you go next.
Well,
try not to take up the whole segment.
Okay. I'll try. I thoroughly agree with you, Mike, that Brent Spiner deserves a shout out this season. But my 2 awards, I'm going to go with the band for being able to play Shadows of the Night without rehearsing. And then I'm going to go with the spotlight operator for being able to run the spotlight without any power. Those are my 2 awards this week.
Oh my gosh. All of us are choking to death right now. Just choking.
I am so happy that I had muted my microphone for that because I was slapping the desk and slapping my hands. All right. I'm not
Tell
sure
us how you really feel, Jamie. I mean, I think you've been really coy about your feelings about this episode. You need to really work on that for future episodes. We need you to be a little bit more.
That jazz band killed it, man. So don't hate on the jazz band. And I mean, how do you do the spotlight without power? I mean, that spotlight person. Fantastic. I don't care who it is. Fantastic.
Fran, I think you have to have a conversation with Jamie and get him in the right frame of mind here. All right. What are you awarding this week?
The friendship, the continuing friendship between Rafi and oh my gosh, the hot guy. I shouldn't call him the hot guy. But
that's great.
Rios.
Why not? Why not call him the hot guy?
I mean, that's
he's
totally so fine. Hot. He's so he's really close. He's hot.
It is acceptable because we've all talked about how stunning Allison Pill has been in that dress. Okay. So I think socially you are allowed to call him the hot guy.
Between Rios and Rafi. Because, we knew that they were friends from season 1 and their rapport at the bar, their interaction at the bar, it was just fantastic. I liked that. I liked it a lot. I'm like, oh, and I was like sitting there smiling because those two were at each other again in a good way. She's like, calm down, wait, hold up. You're from 2 different centuries. It's not going to work. He's like, oh, massive. So, and the food, he's just, but that conversation between them 2 and her, also, because I think she's a great actor too. Her grief with she's seeing Elnor everywhere, like we do. Oh, that looks like so-and-so. Oh, that looks, So those things with Rafi. And, of course, I got to mention Dr. Mae Jameson again. Dr. Jameson, and they spelled it right because I look at everything with closed captions now. I can hear, but, and then it's like, oh, Dr. Mae Jameson.
Good for you for picking that up. That's great. I totally did not even hear that, and I didn't watch this with the closed captions, so I missed that.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's great. So is that all you have, or do you have one more?
No, those are the 2 things. I just but I've already said I've had conversations like he had with her. And kind of brought people back from the brink. Mm-hmm. So it's entirely possible. And I know it because they came back to me, as I said, years later and said, you said, and you know what? Sometimes I remember them and sometimes I didn't. So it's possible. Because I've been clean for 33 years. So, nice. Yeah, thank you.
Very nice.
So, yeah. So it's I loved, that was it. That's it.
Well, I'm going to hit on the scene that you and I adored, Fran, and I can't remember if Mike did or not, but I only have 2 awards this week as well, and they go to Penelope Mitchell, who played Renee, and of course, Papa Captain Patrick Stewart. I think the play between the 2 of them in that scene, and I mean, Penelope Mitchell does a really good job in this episode with the characteristics of someone who is going through something. You know, the nervousness, the burying of shots during the night, putting the facade on when she goes for the picture with the rest of the crew, and then, you know, completely losing it in the end where she just has to escape the party. Phenomenal job by her. And then Patrick Stewart, just with his delivery of the lines in that scene and talking to her. I mean, I can't say enough good things about that scene, because I love it. I can't say more.
Library computer, data being received.
Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, where we get crazy with our predictions. So let me, just before anybody else starts with their things, say I feel vindicated, because end of episode 1, beginning of episode 2, I said Jurati is going to be that Borg Queen that we saw on the ship. And it does seem that that's where this is going. So, you know what? I'm going to take any victory I can get, and I'm going to do a victory lap on it. So there we go. That's my victory lap. Let's see. All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to go first here, because mine isn't anything big. It's the most obvious thing that stands out to all of us. We're finally going to find out what this whole thing is that we've been seeing with Picard's mother in these little flashbacks. We're going to find out what's happening. I don't know what it is, but we're going to find out. We'll see how it all plays out. But I think that's the low hanging fruit, and I was just going to grab it for all it was worth. Fran, any predictions going forward?
I think they're gonna explore more, like you just said, with his mom and what's going on, because it was hinted that, you know, it seems like this muscle stuff is generational. It runs in the family, which is true to life. So yeah, I think that's going to be next. Well, not immediate. Well, yeah, I think we're going to see just what's what, you know, because we've seen the previews of her getting dragged and, you know, doing all this. Like, what the world is going on here? So we'll see. We'll see what's up. That's all I got.
Okay. Jamie?
I got 2. So we just recently.
How many of those are Mike's ideas?
just one.
Okay.
So we saw. Okay, so I'm gonna go with. I know you were kind of alluding to it, but I'm gonna go. Rios is staying behind. I'm full in on that, you know, and they're kind of leaving us breadcrumbs throughout this entire season. All right, he loves matches, he loves the cigars, he loves the food, he's in love with Teresa. And I feel like it's going to be something similar to like Time's Arrow, where Picard gets the rest of the crew back, but stays behind with Guinan, kind of thing. Like, I feel like it's going to be something at the end of the season where, you know, Rios has to like sacrifice himself to stay behind to get everybody else home. I feel that's how they're going to kind of do it. So I'm going with that one. And then this kind of a little bit more of an obscure kind of theory about the future. For those, hopefully everybody that listens knows that the Next Generation cast is going to be coming for season 3. And, so we kind of saw those kind of previews. I think that all this kind of playing around in the past and all this other stuff is going to change the future, and it's going to prevent Data from dying in Nemesis. That's all I got.
Wow.
You should have led with that one and left my prediction alone, Jimmy. Gee whiz. Come on. You could have that. Wow.
I think he does it like just to mess with you, Mike. I really do.
It's
on like Donkey Kong. Don't worry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's all you've got.
All right.
Mike.
Well, I really think that they are leading their way to Rios being left behind, or not even left behind. I think he's going to choose to be behind. I just don't know how they're going to justify that, but I think that that's a definite way. And I also think I don't want this to be the case, but I'm feeling like because they are bringing back the Next Generation crew next season, that we are going to see kind of the departure of other major characters from this season, whether it be Rafi and Seven going off together, or even and obviously we had Jurati's future is kind of up in the air. I mean, I think you're right, Mike. She's the Borg Queen, but I also think that she might be the big baddie of season 3. To be honest,
hey, that's a pretty good prediction there. I didn't go that far, so that's
I think that she's going to end up being the big baddie somehow. But it's going to be interesting how they play around with this. I'm not, I'm feeling less confident about them wrapping up this season in as well as I think they should have. Based upon this episode just being sort of like Fran said earlier, just inching us towards forward.
The finish line, yep.
Yeah. So, but we still got 4 episodes left. Hopefully the rest are longer than 38 minutes, and hopefully they will, and hopefully they will feel less torturous than these 38 minutes were.
So I'm gonna piggyback off of something you said there, Mike. I do feel you're correct, and I know Jamie has actually talked about this before, that he doesn't feel like there's going to be an ending to this season, that it's going to continue into season 3. I think there's going to be certain parts of what we're dealing with in season 2 that will be wrapped up by episode 10, but there is going to be a thread that carries over into season 3, some type of cliffhanger for all of us. Who knows? I mean, Terry Matalas has been unbelievable in how he's kind of outlined this season. So I'm wondering if it could be something as eye-opening as a best of both worlds.
Oh no, I hope not.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I hope not too. But you never know. You never know with these things. Actually, Jamie and I
think.
Yeah.
I think we're heading towards the best of both worlds finale here, and the only comparison that I can make is that I don't think we're gonna have as long to wait for the third season. So it's going to feel like that summer did after the third season, waiting for that finale to be resolved. But yeah, I think we're definitely heading that way. And I think I'm gonna even go as far to say that I think there are going to be multiple threads that are going to need to be wrapped up. I think that we're thinking that there's just going to be one jaw dropping thing at the end of this season. I think that there's going to be several things that we're going to be like, what they did, and just like like when we're reviewing episode 10 or this season, I think we're going to be going out of our minds. I'm hoping.
Well, that's going to make for that review episode to be pretty fantastic with the 6 of us.
Yeah, everybody should clear about 6 hours out of their
Oh my
schedule
God,
for the
yeah.
Discovering Trek Picard
Wrap up
finale / wrap up. So
We're gonna have to break it into 2 parts.
yes.
But I agree with you, Mike. I think it's coming sooner than we think. We've seen that filming for season 3 is already wrapped.
Mm-hmm.
We know that to be released in 2022, we have Strange New Worlds, which is just around the corner, season 3 of Lower Decks, and season 1.5 of Prodigy. That's 30 episodes of content that is on the docket already slated for this calendar year. Could we see the beginning of season 3 of Picard kick off, at the end of that? Possibly. If they're done filming, then that means that, potentially they've already gotten into some of the heavy stages of post-production on the first couple of episodes, which would definitely make it available for late 2022. So who knows? But I think that's a very real possibility.
Yeah, Discovery is not filming at all yet, and Discovery has been our November kind of baby, or October, November baby every year, and they're not going to be anywhere near ready for that this year. So I think that we're going to have to come back to Picard, which is wrapped, and then hopefully right after that we'll get season 2 of Strange New Worlds, and then maybe we'll get Discovery after that. But yeah.
Because they're filming season 2 of Strange New Worlds now.
Right. Yeah.
Up in Canada.
It's a good problem to have, trying to figure out when our next one's going to be.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, one thing we don't have to predict is what will be happening next week. Talon ventures inside Picard's subconscious mind to help him wake from a coma and face both his darkest secrets and deepest fears. Seven and Raffi go in search of Jurati, whom they fear has succumbed to the monster inside. And Rio struggles to hide the truth of who he really is from Teresa. Episode 7 is entitled Monsters, and we'll be covering it for you here on Discovering Trek Picard.
And don't forget that you can support Discovering Trek and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network by subscribing to bonus content on Patreon. Get access to unedited audio of all our podcasts and a lot of other awesome perks. If you'd like to support this and the other member podcast of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, beam on over to patreon.com/TrekGeeks, where subscriptions start as low as $2 a month.
For more great Star Trek discussion, check out the aforementioned member podcasts on the network. Start that over. For more great Star Trek discussion, check out the aforementioned member podcasts on the network. In addition to Discovering Trek, there is Trek Geeks, Rewind, Politreks, 5-Year Mission, Deep Space Pride, Drawn to Trek, Infinite Trek, The Divine Treasury, Sci-Fi Sisters, Science Station 2, with The First Link, and the newest addition to the network, Con Pod, about Star Trek conventions. You can find all of these shows and where to listen on trekgeeks.com/listen or by downloading the Trek Geeks mobile app.
The Trek Geeks Podcast Network. No one talks Trek like we do.
It really looks like Jurati's going to be taking over the world, doesn't it? And what is going to happen with Picard? He can't die again, can he? Tune in next week as we dive into another chapter of this evolving story. To close, we quote Jean-Luc Picard from last season: "Hope and the odds make poor bedfellows." Until next time, never stop discovering.
Music for Discovering Trek is provided by 5-Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. Discovering Trek is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.